Alrighty, so let's jump straight in terms of talking about the news of the week that happened in the last couple of days. And if you thought these are the only news that we're gonna talk about on the board, well, you're wrong because we're back to doing news of the week episode where I have to switch board. There was just so much news that has happened in the last couple of days that I had to basically do two boards, and that include all the news that I actually weren't able to talk about on Saturday because right when I did the Saturday news of the week episode, which was early in the morning, I knew that there was going to be a case that there was going to be some big news that's going to drop in the afternoon, and boy, there were definitely some. But let us actually first by talking about a head coach that has been hired because we're once again got a new head coach that is being hired. In fact, I think now every single MLS team has have a head coach. I think the Whitecaps is the last team to not have a head coach heading into the preseason, which, by the way, preseason, damn, it has already started for every single team. And before you know it, we're going to start to see some preseason game. And this is where I also will be making some videos about season preview of each of the 30 MLS team heading into this season. But obviously, the Vancouver Whitecaps, they have announced that Jesper Sorensen is going to be their new head coach. Now, this has been reported for the past couple of days that he was going to be a new head coach, and this is eventually was made official a couple of days ago. There's been some mixed opinion about him. I mean, some said that this is an upgrade compared to Vanni Sartini. Some said it's not. Either way, it should be very interesting to see how he's going to do with this Whitecaps team. I mean, this Whitecaps team definitely has some talent, and the expectation is for this team to not only make it to the playoffs, but maybe win one or two playoff game. And when it comes to hiring Scandinavian head coaches or head coaches that coach in Scandinavian League, as Jesper Sorensen, obviously from Denmark, and has been pretty much coaching in the Danish league throughout his whole time, especially with Rockby. There's been some mixed bag in terms of we have seen some good head coach that have come here in MLS that come from Scandinavian League, and then we also see some duds that is out there. So certainly the Whitecaps are hoping that he's going to be one of those good head coach coming uh over from Scandinavia, and a head coach that will try to do something that Vanni Sartini couldn't get this team do, which is win a couple of playoff game and get past the first round. Now, San Diego FC, they have acquired midfielder Alejandro Aviado Jr. from FC Vizela. Now, this team is from the Portuguese second division, which Rebels fans saying, wait a minute, I thought we're the team that are the only one that are allowed to sign players from the Portuguese second division. But all kidding aside, this is a player that I think it's more used for depth rather than starting pieces. From what I heard from San Diego fans, it feels like this is just a piece for the future rather than for the present. So we'll see how he's going to do with this team. And as I said, San Diego continue to add some players onto their roster, and I'll talk about just bet. It seems that they're about to make another blockbuster signing in the near future as well. Now, the LA Galaxy, they have acquired defender Matthias Jorgensen from Anderlecht. So this is pretty much the Caceres replacement. They're signing another veteran defender that have done well throughout his career, has a lot of European experience. From what I remember from Matthias Jorgensen, he was with Brentford for a very long time. Didn't really appear with Brentford that much. I remember there was that one year where he was battling with injuries, and that's kind of something that could be a little concern for the Galaxy, considering he has had some injury issue, especially in the latter part of his career, and that when you have guys that are a little older and have injury prone, that could be a little bit concerned. But again, it's this is just more for I would say almost like a fringe depth pieces that they have, and a guy that again is going to be replacing Caceres, who they decided to let go this off season. Now, Charlotte FC, they have officially acquired Eric Williamson in exchange for 100,000 general allocation money to the Portland Timbers, and that's actually a pretty good deal for Charlotte. I mean, I know the Timbers maybe are thinking about getting a little bit of a salary dump off of the Eric Williamson deal, and consider, I've said before, Eric Williamson can be a really useful player if he can stay healthy. And that's a big if because he's been injury prone throughout his time, and he's another one of those players that is a big what if he can stay healthy. He could definitely be on the verge of not only with the U.S. men's national team, but maybe even playing in Europe right now. But now he's going to be going to a new team, and if he can stay healthy, I think Charlotte got a really good steal out of this. And then DC United have signed defender Kai Robles from Hearts, so this is another deal that there's been rumors of this going to come true. I think I've already mentioned this a couple of news of the week episode ago, and indeed that this signing has been complete. From what I heard from Hearts fan, it seems like he's a very doable kind of player, and that's what DC need. I mean, they need defensive help at the their mercy. Will consider how bad that defense was last season, and hopefully him being there and I'm assuming he's going to be a regular starter for this team, can really solidify this defense that, again, last season, it was absolutely shambolic. They were one of the worst teams when it comes to goal allow, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in MLS in general. Now, moving on, in terms of talk about some free agency signing, because there were definitely a lot of free agency signing as well, and probably the biggest one has to be with the San Jose Earthquakes. I know it feels like we're in a weird timeline right now that the San Jose Earthquakes are making some big move both in free agency and also in trade, and they made another big one by signing Joseph Martinez off of free agency. So there's been a lot of talk of is Joseph Martinez going to stick around in MLS, or is he going to be going to South America? There's been a lot of rumor that that was going to be the case, but nope, it seems like he's staying with MLS, and that he's going to be with the Quakes. Now, I've always said that Joseph Martinez, he's not the same Joseph as what we saw during his time with Atlanta, and that torn ACL injury that he suffered, it really kind of ruined a guy that could potentially be a guy that I even said he could be a real threat in terms of Wando's record if he keep the goal scoring rate that he was with Atlanta United. But obviously it didn't happen. He's been kind of passed around the league, but I think it's a decent signing, especially a depth signing as well. I mean, at first I kind of didn't understand this signing, consider they just signed Chicho Arango a couple of days ago. Why do they need to have another number 9 unless if Bruce wants to go with a two striker system? But on the other hand, I think he's a good piece coming off the bench. I mean, imagine bringing Joseph Martinez off the bench. That is such a premium piece bringing off the bench, even if he's not the same Joseph as what we've seen a couple of years ago. But yeah, like I said, the Quakes continue to make some blockbuster move. I'm not used to this as a Quakes fan. It feels like this is a weird kind of time, almost a fever dream to seeing the Quakes are actually making some decent move, and that all of a sudden the future of this team. You know how last season it looked like doom and gloom. All of a sudden, it seems like things could go well. Especially with Bruce Arena at helm. Now, FC Cincinnati, they have signed Brian Onunga off of free agency. Now, this is more of a depth signing. He wasn't that good during his time with Nashville. He's more of a depth piece. So, Cincinnati said, well, we'll pick him up because we always need some depth in our team. I will never complain when teams decided to sign some utility pieces, especially for cheap, and this is an example of that. Now, Montreal, they also have signed Prince Owusu off of free agency. What is it with TFC player now all of a sudden go to Montreal? It feels like we've seen a lot of TFC player that have now played for Montreal. We saw it with Raheem Edwards. We saw it recently with Jaquil Marshall Ruddy. And now Prince Owusu, another guy that was very talented kind of player with TFC that he didn't quite live up to the expectation. Now he's going to be going to Montreal and hope that he can rediscover his career. I mean, he's a guy that again he has some potential, but one of the big issue with Owusu is obviously he's a very frustrating player when it comes to trying to put the ball into the bag. And his finishing is not very good, and that again I don't expect this is to be the solution in terms of losing Joseph Martinez and even Kokoro that they lost this off season as well. But yeah, it's something that Montreal is trying to do to try and to strengthen the team and hope that Laurent Courtois with a much more strengthened team can actually implement the Wilfred Nancy ball stop that he wants to implement with this Montreal team. Now, moving on, we got Sporting KC signing Mason Toy off of free agency. I actually spelled Mason Toy name wrong, so let me at the end in that. Obviously, I don't want to disrespect Mason Toy. I'm always been a fan of Mason Toy, and it's kind of sad to see how his career has ended up. I mean, I still remember how promising he was when he was with the Loons, and it just kind of fall apart after that. He's been kind of bouncing around the league, and now Sporting KC is the latest team to give him a try to see how he's going to do. Now, the Houston Dynamo, they have signed Eric Duenas off of the end of the year waiver list. Now, obviously, Eric Duenas, he's another one of those young kids coming out of the LAFC academy that really didn't get a lot of minutes, even though there's some potential that he can be decent. And again, when you join a team that is already very stacked and a team that he's considered to be a contender in MLS throughout the years. A lot of youngsters are not going to get as much minutes as they want to. But with him now going to Houston, I expect maybe he'll get more minutes compared to LAFC because it is limited minute. The potential is definitely there. He can be a really good player, and it's a very smart signing for the Dynamo to pick him up off the end of year waiver list. Now, the Chicago Fire, they have signed Portuguese defender Leonardo Barroso from Sporting CP. Now, apparently, I think this is the White Omsburg replacement because, just after a couple of hours after this announcement, it was announced that Chicago were not going to re-sign Wyatt Omsburg, and New England says, thank you very much. We'll pick him up off of free agency as well. So, yeah, we'll see whether or not if he can be a decent replacement. And, Wyatt Omsburg, I think he was a very underrated defender. I mean, I don't think people realize how good he is, and I also think that it was kind of a little bit of a mistake for Minnesota to decide to let him go so soon. I mean, I know he was more of a fringe player when he was with the Loons, but with Chicago, not only got more minutes, but he looked pretty decent as well, but not decent enough, I would say, to be a regular starter in MLS. So yeah, we'll see how the signing will do for both Chicago and New England. And then LAFC have signed Odin Thiago home on loan from Celtic. So I already mentioned about this signing before of how maybe this is kind of the replacement for Lewis O'Brien. I think Lewis O'Brien is still with LAFC right now, and if it is the case, it's kind of interesting that they decided to get two Lewis O'Brien type of player, or is this just going to be a replacement for Ilie that they lost this off season? Now, moving on in the next news, we got NYCFC re-signing Maxi Morales to a new contract extension. So yeah, they're gonna. It seems like NYCFC, they're going to keep their legend for another season, and why not? Maxi Morales has started to become a bit of an ageless wonder. He's a guy that, yeah, last season, I know is not the same guy as he was during his prime, but he can still put some good number. And knowing that it seems like this NYCFC team is kind of running it back a little bit. When you look at the roster that they had, I've said before that they don't really need to make too much changes. The pieces are definitely there. They're just hoping all these youngsters can show some consistent kind of form that was lacking last season, and all of a sudden they can get themselves back in the conversation as one of those contender in the Eastern Conference. And it also helped when you decided to get your legend and a guy that is a very great locker room presence for this NYCFC team back for another season. And then finally, the last news when it comes to signings and also players that is moving on with a club. Well, one of the players that is moving on with a club is Nikolai Sorensen. So he is now going to be going to Spartak Rotterdam after St. Louis City decided to sold him. And with the way that Cecilio Pompeo is going to be back next season, I don't know exactly when he's going to be back. Maybe in the beginning of the season, though that's highly doubtful. Consider after he's suffering that torn ACL injury. I think his timeline is still going to be probably near the first couple of months in the beginning of the season. But yeah, Sorensen was the replacement for Pompeo, and I always said that he was an okay replacement. The thing that I think why St. Louis fan got really frustrated with him is that his finishing was absolutely horrendous. Like he always gets into good position, but he always screw up when it comes to the final third play. So yeah, with the way that they're getting Pompeo back, and most likely he's going to be back into that role. They don't really have a lot of use for Sorensen anymore, and yeah, decided to sell him back to Europe and even get a good sum of money back as well. But now I am going to switch boards and now look at some of the transfer rumors that has happened in these last couple of days. So now talking about some of the transfer rumors that has happened in the last couple of days, and again, judging by the wall of text, there was a lot of transfer rumors that has happened. And we start off with San Diego, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Look like they're about to sign another blockbuster player. I mean, I don't know if you can call Luca De La Torre as a blockbuster player. I mean, he's a guy that I'm pretty sure if you're a U.S. men's national team fan, you probably have heard of him yet. And he's a guy that he's been spending a couple of years playing in Europe. There's been some good moments of him being in Europe, but it feels like he's starting to kind of fell out of favor, especially the current team that he is with Celta Vigo, and there could be a case that maybe he could return home and play in MLS, and San Diego is looking like the team to do so. And I think this is a good signing, especially for a guy that, again, I'm also kind of surprised that Chicago decided not to think about bringing him, especially with Greg Berhalter and his love with former U.S. men's national team player. I would assuming Luca De La Torre would have been a good fit to bring back in terms of the MLS fall. But yeah, San Diego looking to trying to get him, and if they do get him, I think he can be decent. I mean, especially with him already playing some of the highest level in Europe, if he can kind of look like that form, he can be a decent piece for the San Diego team, especially that present in the midfield as well. Speaking of a player that potentially could come back to MLS, so it seems like this could potentially be a reality, and we knew that this was going to be a reality when it was announced that it looks like Miguel Almiron is going to come back to MLS. Now, for a while, it seems like Charlotte was the team to do so, but now it seems like Atlanta is jumping in and they're looking to bring back one of the favorites this off season. Now, obviously, the deal is still not anywhere close to being done, and not to mention if Atlanta is going to bring back Miguel Almiron, they will have to pay some discovery rights fee that Charlotte of course has had, and also I think they also will have to get themselves up in the allocation order as well as that's kind of the case when you decide to bring back a player that used to play in MLS. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting to see whether or not if it is being done, and it's also gonna be interesting to see if Miguel Almiron is gonna go back to Atlanta. Obviously, the fans are gonna absolutely like it because of the nostalgia of him and Joseph being a big part of why Atlanta was so good in their early years in MLS. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not we can see the Miguel Almiron that really just kind of light up the league in the beginning of the season and why he got that big move and really kind of kick off this movement of MLS 3.0 of developing young South American player and eventually sell off for a huge amount of money. Now, Charlotte, despite the fact that they are potentially not going to get Miguel Almiron after they've been linked with him for a while now. They're looking to sign another Premier League star in Wilfred Zaha on loan from Galatasaray. Now, I'm not surprised that Charlotte is really looking at players that used to play in the Premier League. I mean, their head coach, Dean Smith, used to be the manager for Aston Villa, so I'm pretty sure he has a lot of connection in terms of some of the Premier League player. And Wilfred Zaha is kind of a player that he's kind of a bit of a what if kind of player in my opinion. I mean, he was a guy that was very talented doing his time with Crystal Palace. I'm surprised he stayed with Crystal Palace for that long of a period because he could have easily played for some big club as well with the talent that he has. But unfortunately, injuries kind plagued him, and eventually he did move on to go to Galatasaray. He's also kind of been a little bit injury prone there as well. Hasn't really kind of looked the same though. We'll see whether or not if he can rediscover his form now that he's going to go to Charlotte. He's a very fast player as well, and maybe that speed is kind of the reason why he can be a little bit injury prone at times. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if this signing would complete. If this signing does complete, I think Charlotte does have can get a really good player. Especially, the wing is one of the area that Charlotte do do really need on the attacking front, and getting Wilfred Zaha that would be just as good of a signing, I think, in my opinion, compared to if they want to get Miguel Almiron this off season. Speaking of fast player, this guy called Neymar? Yeah, it seems like it looked like he could be on his way to MLS as there's latest rumor that it seems like free MLS club is reported to look to sign Neymar. Now, obviously, the one club that everybody can think of that is potentially going to sign Neymar has to be Inter Miami because it just makes sense that we would have the reunion of the MSN connection if this of course is the case. But now there's rumors saying that it's actually not Miami the team that is looking to get Neymar. It seems like Chicago is actually the closest team to get him. Now, one thing I will say about Neymar, he's going to definitely bring a lot of eyeball and that also he's going to definitely get a lot of people butts in the seat. Consider how talented he is, and he's also another guy that I would also say like Wilfred Zaha, a very big what if player. He could have been an absolute superstar and could have been become one of the best players to ever play in his position, and also one of the best Brazilian player to ever play in his position if he can stay healthy. He's been having a lot of injury issue. In fact, during his time in Saudi Arabia, he's been more time on the IR than actually on the pitch as well. And again, you sign a player like that, and especially if you're Chicago, yes, getting the like of Neymar, that's going to draw a lot of attention and maybe help the attendance. What is it going to actually help your team if he's not going to be staying healthy for most of the period, and that you could potentially get another Xherdan Shaqiri kind of signing? Especially, one of the other issue with Neymar is that, besides injury issue, he hasn't really showed a lot of great effort doing his time with Saudi Arabia, and I don't know if he could do the same thing that he's going to come to MLS. I mean, MLS is a league that I'm pretty sure even some of the biggest superstar players, they still take it seriously as well, but there's no guarantee that of course, is the case. So yeah, again, this is very fascinating, and that, for a while we have heard that it seems like Neymar is going to be coming into this league. This is probably the closest it can come to reality, and yet, we still don't know if it actually is going to be a reality, because, I think Tom Bogert actually dropped a bombshell about that, and in the first place, and he mentioned that Chicago seems like they're the closest team to trying to get the signature of Neymar. Speaking of the Chicago Fire, so they're looking to sign winger Jonathan Iconi for $16 million from Florentina. So Chicago, as Greg Berhalter have said, they've been desperately looking for a DP winger. They've been searching throughout the whole off season. This was pretty much the top priority for them, and now it seems like they're looking to trying to get him. Now, obviously, for $60 million, that is a lot of money. That's even more than when they got Hugo Kuipers last offseason. But from what I heard, he's a very talented player doing his time with Florentina. And yeah, for a talented player like that, I mean, that it's a hefty amount of money, but it's definitely one that could be worth it if they can get his signature as well. I even hear that some people said that he's kind of like a very Darlington Nagbe kind of type of winger as well. And even though Darlington Nagbe isn't really kind of uh, a winger, if you're compared to Darlington Nagbe, you're gonna get a really decent kind of player, and we'll see whether or not if Chicago will do so. Speaking of potentially spending some big money, Atlanta United, we know that they are a team that is no stranger in terms of opening the wallets, and they're looking now to really open the wallets by looking to bid for Middlesbrough forward Emmanuel Latte-Laf for an upwards around $20 million. Now, if you're wondering, for a guy that played in the championship, I mean, $20 million, that's a lot of money. But again, Atlanta, they're also very desperate of looking for a number nine. Originally, they were looking to try to sign that Japanese forward from Celtic. It seems like that move have fell through. So now they're going with the next option, and especially, for him, I always say that the championship is maybe just a little bit better in terms of the level that MLS is, and for a guy that seems like he's done very well during his time with Middlesbrough, and also not to mention near the prime of his career, it's no surprise that the asking amount is going to be a lot. And anytime when you try to ask for a player in coming from an English team, it's going to be inflated in terms of the price. But yeah, $20 million, that is definitely an eye-opening kind of figure. That might be a record transfer as well, because I don't think any team has spent that much in terms of just bringing a single player in MLS history. Now, the Portland Timbers, they are actually now very close to signing Kevin Kelsey for around $6 million from Shakhtar Donetsk. So this has been a move that we've been eyeing for a while now. They've said every single day that it's getting close that is going to be happening, but now it seems like it's very close, and it's almost just about reality that Kevin Kelsey is going to be going to the Portland Timbers. And then Austin FC, they have set to sign DM Nicholas Dobrzeski from Instituto in Argentina. Now, from what I heard, he's a very talented young Argentine defensive midfielder. Yes, he's an Argentine defensive midfielder. His last name doesn't sound like it. He sounds like a guy from Poland, or from one of the Baltic country, but apparently he is Argentine, and that, yeah, for all Austin, they're looking to try to get a young promising player, especially looking for a replacement for Alex Rain, and also trying to solidify that midfield that is one of the bigger needs that Austin need to address this off season. And then Inter Miami, they're looking to sign Uruguayan center back Maxi Falcon from Colo Colo. So yeah, it's kind of interesting the fact that Inter Miami have now started to expand of not just signing simply Argentine player. It feels like that's kind of their MO for a while. But yeah, one thing that we talk about with Inter Miami of what is the biggest need that they need defensive help. And from what I heard, this guy seems pretty good. I mean, anytime when you get a Uruguayan center back, you're gonna get a pretty good player. I mean, after all, this is a team that has the like of Diego Godin play for them, and there's some really good Uruguayan center backs over the years. Now, I don't know if he's gonna be right up there in terms of that same level. Probably not, but something that again for Inter Miami, they would absolutely want to boost her the defense because if they can fix that defense, if they can, because I don't expect them to be an absolute lockdown defensive kind of team, but if they can actually look good on the defensive side, this team definitely is going to be favorites of winning MLS Cup. I mean, I think heading into this season, they are the favorites in terms of winning MLS Cup, along with the LA Galaxy and even the LAFC as well. But if they can fix their defense, this might be the year that they can redeem themselves after just an absolute failure of the season last year of that shock first round exit that they had in the playoffs. And then Sporting KC is in talk with signing Barcelona B captain Unai Hernandez. By the way, I actually wrote captain twice there. I'm not sure why I decided to do that. So I don't know too much about this guy other than the fact that when it comes to Barcelona B player, there's some good players that they of course have. I mean, most of those players came from the famed La Masia academy. And remember, last time when Sporting KC decided to sign a guy that played for Barcelona B, the guy was Ilie Sanchez. So they're hoping that they're gonna get another Ilie kind of type of player with him, and we'll see whether or not if that will be the case and whether if this signing would be complete. And then Nashville SC is report to sign Colombian center back Jason Palacios from CD America. And no, this is not Club America. This is CD America from the Colombian League. Again, I don't know too much about this player either, other than the fact that Nashville. It's hard to believe that I say that they kind of need to booster their back line. Consider this back line has been so solid throughout the years under Gary Smith, but you started to see cracks last season, and especially ever since they moved on from Dave Romney. This team, the fans have definitely shown a lot of cracks to a point where they need some new fresh faces in terms of that back line, and they're hoping bring him will be that answer, and hopefully will reshape this Nashville back line to be one of the most stingiest in the league for the past couple of years. And in New England, they're looking to sign Maxi Urruti off of free agency. Maxi Urruti, I mean, Maxi Urruti right now, he's got kind of had that Kai Kamara-esque kind of vibe where he's gonna be pretty much been passing along with different team in the league. He's been playing with a lot of different teams throughout his career, and now he's now going to be joining another team. And he's kind of a guy that I know he's not the same player as he was before, and it's hard to believe that he's still only in his early 30s. It feels like he's been around the league for ever. But yeah, it looks like New England is going to be the latest destination. That is, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody is looking to try to sign Jarzy Zardes as well, because you tell about players that it's hard to believe they're still around the league, even though they've been passed around for many teams throughout the year. Maxi Urruti is going to be one of those players, and Jarzy Zardes again is another type of player that I wonder we'll see other team maybe have interest of bringing him as well. Now, NYCFC goalkeeper Matt Fries is actually getting some strong interest with some German and Dutch club, and this is not a big surprise. Consider I've mentioned how I wouldn't be surprised NYCFC might start to sell some of their big young talent. Matt Fries is definitely one of those guys. He has looked excellent ever since he won that spot for NYCFC, and this was expected. I mean, even going back to his day with the Union, he was an up and coming goalkeeper that's going to be very decent, and especially with the way that he also have a German passport, from what I report, it kind of makes sense that he's going to be going to a European team, and we'll see whether or not if NYCFC would eventually sell him. I don't expect them to sell him this off season or maybe even in the summer transfer window, but they're definitely listening to the offer. If the offer is right, they're gonna decide to move on from Matt Freeze, which is not an easy decision for them to do so. And then speaking of players that is potentially going to another team, so we have two very star number 10 player in Lucho Acosta and Sebastian Driussi. Did not show up for their respective club for preseason training. Now, both of these players, there's been rumors that they want out with their current club, especially Sebastian Driussi. There's actually now a rumor that it seems like he's going to be going to River Plate for $10 million. And yeah, it's pretty clear that Driussi has not been happy doing his time with Austin FC, and that Austin kind of had no choice that they're gonna have to let go of him, and they still get a pretty good haul. I mean, $10 million. I think that's even more than when they first bought him in the first place. So they'll definitely need to take that money. Now, in terms of the Lucho Acosta situation, I haven't heard there's any other team that is looking to try to get him, but this is very fascinating. And for Cincinnati, this is definitely concerning. If you see that Lucho Acosta decide not to show up for their respective team. Like, he is the heart and soul of this team. Without Lucho Acosta, we saw last season how Cincinnati just doesn't look like the same team, and probably not even in the same discussion as a top contender in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see whether or not if they can sort that out. I mean, he's already shown some unhappiness, especially after the elimination to NYCFC last season in the first round, and that yeah, we'll see whether or not if they can sort this one out. I really don't want to see another Reynoso situation a team has to deal with. I mean, as a Minnesota fan, I've already know the pain of dealing with your star number 10 just not show up and want to force a move out. And yeah, we'll see whether or not Cincinnati will work with Lucho Acosta and do something to try to keep their star, because it would be a shame for them to lose their number 10, and it will really damage their chance to really be considered themselves a big contender in the Eastern Conference heading into next season. Now, one player that was reported that potentially could move on, but it seems like now that there's conflict of report that this is not going to happen, is Lucas Oriano. So it seems like they're not going to sell him this off season. This is not a big surprise, because why would they decide to sell a player that they just sold a similar type of player in Alvaro Barrial just last off season? And there are definitely a lot of interest in Lucas Oriano. I mean, what he did last season, it's hard to believe that. It is very rare we see a player that can be not just an instant replacement with another player that a team sold off for a big amount of money, but could even be better. I mean, what Lucas Oriano did last season, almost on par, if not better, than what Alvaro Barrial did during his time with Cincinnati. But it seems like they're not ready to move on from him just yet. So don't be surprised if there's going to be more potential show transfer for him if he continued the stellar form that he had last season. And then Holstein Kiel is reported to finalizing a deal to sign John Token. And when I read that, I'm like, God damn it! I just mentioned in the moving forward series and yesterday that I had a feeling John Token was going to be sold off for a big amount of money, but I didn't expect him to be sold off right now, literally the day after I did the moving forward series about the Red Bulls. And now this is where I kind of regret I probably should have picked a different young player to watch for the Red Bulls, knowing John Token is pretty close to potentially be moving on and going to go to Europe. And it's also kind of interesting that the amount that they got, only $3 million. That is a very low amount of money. Though for the Red Bulls, I'm not surprised, consider they're a team that's known to sell players for a cheap amount of money. I think the sell on fee is what will help them in the future. But it's kind of interesting with John Token. He does get his dream move to Europe, but he's now joining a team that is basically battling relegation in the Bundesliga. So we'll see how that, of course, would work out if this deal was going to make. But it's just like, man, I just did a video about the New York Red Bulls yesterday, about how one of their players to watch is John Token, and I know I've said that he was going to be potentially be sell off in the near future. I didn't think the near future means the very next day after I make that video. And now moving on into talk about news that is not related to transfer rumors, because yes, we did had some news that is not related to transfer rumors, and also some signings. And that, of course, is the MLS updating its roster rule. Now, I probably could have done a video on this individually, but I'll just give you the quick lowdown. The fact that it seems like MLS have changed the roster rule where you can now have two buyouts per season instead of the usual one. That could be huge, especially if you want to get rid of bad contract. They also mentioned the transfer window and what exactly the date is. They also mentioned that GAM amount doesn't actually now expire compared to previous season, which I didn't know that teams that receive certain amount of GAM actually have an expiration date.
And then they also mentioned that homegrown players, they can or non-roster homegrown player that is, teams can actually call them up for 6 games during the regular season and can call them unlimited amount during cup games, and that's huge too because we know what happened last season with the Columbus Crew when they decided to look for guys from their MLS Next Pro team, but unfortunately they're not able to do so because all the homegrown players that have represented them already use up the maximum minutes, but now or the maximum games that is allowed. But now it seems like that is increased, and most importantly, in terms of cup games, unlimited amount. So I expect now you're gonna see MLS team looking to bring some of those guys in terms of cup game, especially U.S. Open Cup game. Like I don't know what the future of the U.S. Open Cup is, but I feel like that maybe encourage team to try and to put some of those guys from the MLS Next Pro into U.S. Open Cup game. Now, some people will say, well, that doesn't really make it any difference in terms of seeing and MLS Next Pro team compete like what we saw last season. But still, I think it's still considered good because again, I do really hope that that every single MLS team is going to be able to participate in the U.S. Open Cup and that we don't see the demise of the U.S. Open Cup like what we're thinking that was going to happen last season as well. And then lastly, the Philadelphia Union has now hit with a transfer ban because apparently they did not pay the correct amount for a transfer fee for Jose Roscoe. Apparently, they are $700 short in terms of that. I mean that is a very harsh kind of decision. I think according to FIFA, I mean really $700 is the only difference, and they get slapped because of a transfer ban. I mean, I guess rules are rules, and we'll see whether or not if they can figure this out. Because last week the Union one is a transfer ban right now, especially with them trying to rebuild the roster, and let's see whether or not if they can get that sorted out. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of this news of the week episode. Again, it's a very long one because there's a lot of news that we had to go over. I mean, I think we had 30 plus news to talk about throughout this video. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention on the board, and I'm pretty sure I missed some because there's just so many news that has happened that I might have missed a couple of them. Let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.